Section 1.3, we're going to convert fractions to decimals and percentages. So the first fraction that we see is 1/2. I love this one because it's super easy and everybody's really familiar, but we're going to go through the steps as if it was not easy. Okay, so the first thing we see is we're going to go from a fraction to a decimal. How are we going to do that? We're going to divide. Okay, and then in the decimal form, we have to decide how many decimal places we're going to keep, especially if it's an ugly number. Let's talk about ugly numbers in a little bit. So here is our calculator. So I am going to divide 1 divided by 2. Now, in this course, we expect you to do some things by hand and some things on your calculator. I know that sounds funny, but anything that you can do in your head, I encourage you to do it in your head. It helps you practice, it helps you develop your math skills. But I also don't want you to break your head over something that can be done on your calculator. For example, you shouldn't be using super long division to divide something, okay? That's not necessary. We always have a calculator. So the first thing we see here once we divide is I have 1/2, and that gave me a decimal representation of 0.5. So 0.5. Let's take a look at turning our decimal into a percentage. How do I turn a decimal to a percentage? So what I need to do is multiply, or that's one way. Okay, don't think these are two steps. This is one method. Or some of you might know that you need to move the decimal two places to the okay. And I like method number 2 of moving the decimal two places to the right. It's easy to do, but one of the things that happens is that students often forget if you're going to the right or left, depending on what you're trying to do. So there's the pros is it's easy to remember two places, and the cons is that students forget if it's to the right or to the left, and they'll do all sorts of crazy things. So let's take the 0.5 and multiply by 100. So here we have it, 0.5, and we are multiplying by 100. Now, the percentage is not something you actually type into your calculator. It's just something that we know happens because we're multiplying by 100%. So this is going to be 50%. So the next one, 0.62. This one's really neat, and this one feels like we're going backwards because if you notice, I started with 1/2, that went to decimal, then went to percentage. This one is starting at the decimal. So what are we going to do? Take the number I see. I don't know if I'm using crazy words here, but the number I see is 62. How about the 0? The 0 is not significant because it's on the left side of the decimal, so it's not something that is valuable to us. Don't be fooled because sometimes there is zeros that are valuable. For example, if I had this, that 0 is valuable, okay? It is significant. So it's the number I see, and then there's different ways to do this. So the first method is I'm just going to count the places. 1, 2 places. So I'm going to go, there's always going to be a 1 and 2 zeros because of the 2 places. Okay, so let's write this out. Method 1. I write the number I see, and I'm going to put C here, and then I put it over 1 and zeros. And what do I mean by this? That you count it, right? The amount of decimal places. So we have 62 over 100. Now, maybe you don't see it like that. And one of the other things that you can do, read this out loud. In the previous section, we talked about place values. And so if I read this is going to be 62. I just literally say the number 62, and then the place value is tenths is the sixth, and then the 2 is in the hundredths place. So this is 62 hundredths. And so the hundredths here in that word indicates that you're going to be over 100. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So there's two different ways of writing it. The first method, you write the number that you see on the numerator, and then on the denominator, you always put a 1 next to the amount of decimal places you see with zeros. The second method is just to read the number out loud. This one is 62 hundredths, so that it shows that it's over 100. This fraction can actually be reduced. This is going to be, they're both divisible by 2. And you are required to start reducing all of your fractions, okay? So 62 divided by 2 is 31. I can do that in my head. If you can't, take out your calculator and use it. 100 divided by 2 is 50. There is nothing wrong with using your calculator. It's actually a very valuable skill. Okay, going from decimal to percent. We already have our method written down. You're either going to multiply by 100% or you're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. Since I did the multiplication earlier, I'm just going to do the movement now. So let's take, and I'm going to go 1, 2. One of the things that I often see is students will still put like a weird, like 2 decimal places. I want you to know that you moved it. Okay, so it is permanently moved. So it went from here to here and it ends here, right? So it's like if we were able to grab it and move it, and now we have 62, and this is percent. 62%. The decimal is at the end and it's no longer necessary. On this last one, we're going all the way backwards. So we're going this way, 37% for the decimal. So if we multiplied by 100%, what would be the opposite of that? We're going to divide by 100, or we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. And this is where students start to get a little bit confused. It's not hard. It's actually a quite easy instruction. But what happens is that we tend to forget which way to do it. So this one's going to be 2 places left, or divide by 100. Notice here, I want to highlight this for you. You must have a percentage symbol. If you turned a value into a percentage and you don't have a percentage, then the person who's reading it does not know it's a percentage. So what happens to it when we turn it into a decimal, the percentage goes away. So here we're going to end up with, so the decimal is here at the end, 1, 2 places this way. So we ended up with 0.37, and 0.37 like this is also okay. In math, we tend to write the 0, but if you're not writing it, that's okay. So we have 0.37, and then now we're going to go this way. This one's the one I find, a little bit challenging. Practice once more. Let's do the number I see. So those are the significant numbers I see, and I count 2 places. 1, 2. Easy peasy. That's it. If I say it, this is 37 hundredths, and that therefore you know that it's over 100. I check to see if I can reduce this. One of the major ways to reduce something is to divide by 2. The top number is odd, so I can't divide by 2. The bottom number is even, so that's divisible by 2. But since the top was not, then that's our final answer. Great. Try the next 3